side of the body or add a modifier of some sort, so I'm not really sure the doctor forgot to send that over to me. Realizing that modifiers and units are also designed through EMR so that the doctors could certainly send that information over, but sometimes they forget. So as a biller, I would click on load exam, and that would launch me straight into the exam that the doctor did on that patient today. So I could quickly identify and see what the doctor did and then close out of it, finish my charge, and I'd be done for the day. So the load exam actually takes the exact chart note that the doctor just did in EMR and shows me it. So I don't have to go into EMR and find the patient and look for the right data service and then open it and find it. It just automatically launches me there. So as soon as I hit save, it'll take me straight back into my EMR treatment area so that I can grab my next patient. So I can double click on my next patient. It pulls those charges in, and then I would hit save and so forth, and it would just go right through my whole process of the charges that are sitting out there in EMR treatment. So charges can be done in three ways. Just to kind of wrap that up, I can do it manually by putting in each line item individually. I can also do it manually and have some preset things. So if I know we always have modifiers that go with certain charges during the setup, I can build it that way for any of these options. And then I have EMR treatment, where I can do bulk setup of things that we routinely didn't do in our office so that I don't have to hand type every line item over and over. And then the third way, of course, comes from EMR, where it's what our provider picked that they did during their exam today, and it automatically comes over. So after I do my charges, then I can go into batch. And batch is actually where the claims are batched and sent out from. So I have the ability to do a select all, which would pick every one of my charges that are waiting to get sent out, or I can manually pick one at a time. So if I do have multiple billers in my office, sometimes they want to deal with just their own charges, and so they would actually pick their own and batch their own. I have a validate button here that would actually go out to the Alpha 2 scrubber and scrub using our CCI and NCI edits. Or when I hit batch new, it automatically goes through a validation process. So I only use validate here if I'm worried about something or want to double check on it. Otherwise, it goes through a validation. So when I hit batch, so I don't really need to do that separately. If I have multiple billers, I might throw in a batch and put in my initials behind it, or I can just take the default answer that gloStream gives us and then it knew to batch it. So that claim is now sitting out here in batches waiting to be sent. So all I do is highlight my batch and hit send, and then that information actually gets sent off either electronic or paper, which is a default choice in our insurance file. And then I can say I'm setting, or this is telling me that EDI claim generated successfully. So it's that easy to deal with. I can also highlight it and then look at the CMS form if I want. And so from the CMS form here, you can actually see how the claim was generated and what information it went out as. So it's very easy for you to be able to do any troubleshooting if there is troubleshooting necessary to be done. So posting or batching our claims and sending them out is pretty easy to do as well. The next section would be really finishing up with payment posting. So far I showed you how to collect a copay. If you remember, we right-clicked and went into copay down here. But I also have just a patient payment area, so I can just go into patient payment and say that the patient is paying with a particular check number, and we'll say how much money they're paying. And then just like in charges, I have a close date and payment trays, so I can drive payment trays maybe by, Medicare, commercial, patient mail, daily checkout, that kind of stuff. So you can build, again, your balancing options as much as you want. Earlier I told you to reserve the remaining, but I could certainly come out here and say this $50 payment belongs on this line item and then save that payment. If I hit save, it just keeps me in patient payment so I could post the next one. But I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. And then that kind of showed you how I could do patient payment from there. The other thing that I could have done from charges was there was a button there for patient payment. And notice over here it said copay $10. So that's telling me that there's a $10 copay sitting out there that I could post to. And that tells me I can go into use reserves. So when I click on use reserves, it's going to pull up my money and say there's $10 sitting out here. What would you like to do with it? Well, of course, that $10 told me it went to today's date of service on the office visit copay, so I could type in that money and then hit save and close, and I just posted that payment that we pre-collected from that patient. The other option for patient payments is advanced payments. And so advance payments works a lot like copay. I'm collecting money ahead of time for a surgery that they're going to have that the insurance doesn't cover. So maybe I have a $100 payment that I'm collecting every month until they get ready to do their surgery. I can then reserve that remaining just like I did the copay. And then the difference here is it knows it's an advanced pay, and then I could actually say what surgery that they're having done. So we'll just say Botox. And then I could put in the CPT code or the diagnosis, and it would know what surgery was being done or what service was being done that my patient is prepaying for. Or I could have typed it in there. So I can say notes, and now that money is sitting out there in reserves waiting to be posted against those charges that they're paying off. My last payment is my insurance payment. And so what happens with insurance payment is normally we get a big check from a carrier, for example Medicare. So we can just say that Medicare is paying with that check number, and we'll say that they're paying $1,000. So my total funds comes up here as $1,000 for me to get ready to distribute. Doesn't know what insurance it is yet, so I'm not going to pick that for the moment. But I am going to come down here and say what claim number. So our EOBs always come back with what they call patient account number, but really it's our claim number. So we can say that they're paying on claim number 14, and it pulls this information in on the claim. It automatically knew that employer's health plan was the insurance on this patient, so it knew that that was the insurance company it was driven to be paid by. And then on the bottom it shows you the dates of service that are outstanding for that claim number for me to post against. So I could certainly type in $75 here, and then notice that it takes the remaining dollar amount and subtracts that. So if there was a write-off or a difference between the allowed and the write-off, that information would show up there. I could also say if anything was applied to deductible or copay. So let's say that they paid $100 because 25 of it went towards copay, and then here we can say $0. Are you sure you want to post a zero payment in case you're making a mistake? And then I would say that they applied the whole $70. So this is actually easy enough. It follows, most vouchers, so it's not anything surprising. But it's subtracting this big old check as I go. So as soon as I save this, I can then pull up my next patient account and it'll show what happens from there. But before I do that, I want to talk about a couple other things that are out here. It is obviously tracking your new balances as well as your next. What your next button is saying is, what is my next point of action? So am I going to bill this, which because the patient doesn't have a secondary insurance, it knew that it's going to send a bill to self, to the patient. Or if I typed in a rebill, it would know that we're rebilling it back out to the primary insurance information. So I actually have the ability to drive things, however I need to, if I have to rebill something or send it back to the primary while everything else goes off to the secondary. So that kind of gives me individual controls, as well as I have reasons out here. And in the reason area, um, in a lot of computer systems today, they don't have these pre-built reasons, which are, published by Medicare, and everybody uses the same pre-built codes. But they do everything from your co-insurances to deductibles, etc. And you're only seeing 12 because those are the numbers that I plugged in there. But there's the master book of them are out here. And the idea here is that if I have to add another reason code for some reason, I can. But really, gloStream has pre-built it to where our charge allowed, payment write-off, copay, deductible, co-insurance, and withhold stuff is automatically going with our secondary claims, so that we don't have to hand fill out that stuff. So you probably have to do it by hand manually today, but gloStream has definitely pre-coded that stuff so that you won't have to do that. So it's as easy as that to post our payments. If I hit save and it keeps me on the screen under this check number for me to put in another claim number, I can certainly do that. And what you're seeing at the bottom here is that it's starting to build my EOB. So as I post my payments out here, and I'm just going to kind of show you a few quick and easy things to do. As I'm building this stuff, it's separating my remaining money for me, and then it just takes me into the next one. Oh, I'm in the negative over here, and I didn't like that so much. But anyway, the idea is that I can see the EOBs down here, and I can say hide EOB, so I don't have to see that if I don't want to see that. But if I say view EOB, it gives me the ability to look at what was previously posted, and if I made any mistakes, then I know I can come down there and fix those mistakes. So it's a great way to be able to see information that's out there. So, and how our money is being determined. I always forget to talk about this. I want to talk about takebacks for a second as well, and our reserved used. Takebacks are pretty much a big problem when most people are posting payments. The insurance company tends to take money away from a patient, which means that the check you should have gotten today is shorted by money they're taking back from somebody they paid 3 months ago. So you could actually, right in the middle of that EOB, put in your take back amount, and it would subtract or re-add that money back into your remaining for you, so you could then reapply it to wherever the voucher is telling you to reapply the money to. If for some reason they didn't tell you who to reapply that money to, then you could use it in your reserved area, and then it'll actually work the same way that patient reserves does. You can pull that money out later on to pay off whoever they tell you to finally pay that money off with. So takebacks are moved right into the EOB. That's something that that other systems don't have, and it's very simple and easy to use. So the only other thing about insurance payments is the ERAs, which is our electronic remittance advices. And we do have the ability to do electronic remittance advices, so it'll come in to do in batch or individual posting. So I just don't have that turned on because we don't have real ERAs going out right now, but we do have that ability through Gateway. So I've posted my insurance payments, I got my claims out, did my charges, all that good stuff. So probably the last thing I'm going to talk about is under reports. And